of coming in and out.
Okay. So you were just saying, we've been talking very, well, you're kind of going through a lot of shit. So we've been needing to talk. And we've been on top of it. So we talked on Friday, we talked on Saturday, today's Monday.
Yes. So I wanted to kind of let you know where I'm at, and just so you kind of get a little bit of idea.
Yeah, well, So our last session was you realizing that you have a toxic codependent relationship with your husband. Yeah. And that you've never really, ever supported yourself. And we talked about how important that might be for you to develop a sense of independence so that your marriage might have a fighting chance.
Right. And one of the things that came through strong for me is I actually do remember, because of the situation of me living alone with my dad, I think I was primed for a sort of like Stockholm Syndrome experience, because my first romantic relationship when I was a teenager, the person after we had our first intercourse and whatnot actually abused me physically in front of other people, and a bunch of girls came over to me to basically like, oh my God, come with us. But I actually felt sympathy for him.
Yeah.
And ended up staying in an abusive relationship. Mm-hmm. And that relationship with the CEO, my dad thinks this guy is like the most evil guy in the world, and he actually saved me by disowning me, because it came out that this man had actually molested my sister. He was like a quote unquote family friend.
I see. Got it.
And he even had a girlfriend who committed suicide. Like, I was about to get into such a bad space that I actually had gotten rescued basically out of, which I didn't realize at the time. But anyway, so I definitely do have issues, and so I realized that whenever we had a relationship and how the pregnancy happened, it definitely triggered in me that sense of, so our sexual relationship to me is probably that's where he kind of gets his payoff, because he wasn't interested in being a family guy at first.
This is your current husband.
My current, yeah. And, but I have a way, like, I can actually feel almost like energy getting sucked off of me, which I didn't realize was also a survival mechanism that I had learned how to do. And then I didn't realize how the dream that I had was getting basically, I was really able to kind of get used. But anyway, I'm not going into the victim role, because I understand that
you got something out of it.
Yeah.
So there's a payoff.
Right. And I didn't, I get it. And I actually, when you had finally gotten me to feel that feeling of liberation, I actually been wanting that for so long, but I didn't see how to achieve it. Even so.
Well, do you remember when we were talking how I was like, hold on, go back to where we were, and you'd kind of distracted and going back, but I feel sorry for him, and I was like, shut the hell up, just focus on what I'm telling you.
Yes, and so I am actually really excited about this. Like, I am scared. I'm very scared.
Okay, hold on. So what you're saying, so do you see it clearly? Like, this is what I need to do.
Yes.
Like, this is clear as day. Like, this is the best thing for me. If this marriage has a fighting chance, that's the route I need to go. There's no question. And you can tell by how it feels. Right? Like, if I could get rid of this thing right here, my life would change on so many levels.
And the thing that was really just to kind of, I actually never even got to have that dream of like all the family dinners and stuff, because he brought the food home, because I didn't go grocery shopping. So there was like, he's going to, and not that this matters, but he's going to think I'm incapable of being able to take care of myself, because
you have relied on him so much.
I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I was almost like kind of numb and like comatose almost. So, but I didn't know. Okay, so now I understand.
You understand what?
I understand that the reason that I didn't feel my own energy, or that I felt so disconnected from myself, was the whole dynamic that I was participating in, and how I get how it kind of plays out now.
Yeah, because you are relying on him. He doesn't think you're capable. Enabler, victim, persecutor, the whole thing. But in terms of codependency, he literally probably thinks you need his help, and he thrives off of helping you. It makes him feel like he has a purpose, and she needs me, and she loves me, and I help her, and she needs me, right? So he's probably not intentionally enabling you to then on the inside of you go, oh my God, I can't handle it, but I need him.
Right.
But I feel now that I don't, so you get weaker and weaker and weaker. He becomes more and more and more necessary.
Right.
He gets off on the idea that he can care for you, and that gives him a sense of security, and you're getting off on the fact that you're getting taken care of, but both of you he resents you, he's overworked, he's a workaholic, if you want to call it that, and you're the one over here having an eating disorder, feeling like you have no capacity and can't handle anything. Yeah.
Right. And the other issue is that, like, I believe there's also a fundamental sexual issue here, because I tend to play the super submissive role.
Okay.
And so there's like a getting off that he has on that's also playing into the whole dynamic.
Okay.
He's gonna probably be angry when I say that I would like that this is my choice, and I have to I can be really compliant, and that's something that I've learned as that coping measure, that survival safety sort of tactic. Like that was.
Yeah, you.
So I have to.
So you're saying you maneuver yourself to do what works for him because you're making him more important than you. And so in the process, you end up like raping yourself. Not that you're really getting raped, but you're not necessarily listening to your own boundaries. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, I would say that I was basically allowing that. Yeah, because
you didn't have. You're not using your own voice to say, I'm not doing that. Or whatever it is. So you do what he needs, and it enables him. So you're enabling him that way.
Feel more powerful, and then that makes me feel safe because I made him.
Okay, pause a second. So you're doing that for him sexually. So do you see how? So that's how he feels about taking care of you financially. Because I'm taking care of him, it gives me a sense of safety and security because I'm fulfilling those needs for her, not realizing that what you're doing so he's working his ass off for you and you're sexually performing for him.
Right.
But it's all codependent drama shit versus your own sexual nature, his own sexual nature combining. It's you submitting to him to feel that you're secure supporting him that way. It's like very controlling. Would you say that's kind of controlling?
Well, yeah, because I at this point am so withered away as a person, so I am becoming. I recognize how I've become more and more like a shell of a person.
Yeah, like hollow. I call it hollow. There's nothing in there. You're just this role. You're a facade, and you are dying.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I feel. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I recognize that now that I recognize this, I definitely have to do something about it. I do feel fear, like that's coming up a lot. So,
okay, so the fear is, so your fear is how he's going to react.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the worst case scenario. What are you going to tell him?
and was like, I'm giving you your dream. Like, you are going to have everything that you want. You are going to, the house, you got all this time. Like, he actually also mentioned, because he does this, because he always ups his game. Like, he took me on a trip to Sedona, which I shouldn't have fallen for that, but I did.
So you're getting something out of it. So you got to surrender that shit.
And so he's offering now. He's like, I looked into Yosemite because he knows that was where the next time interested in visiting. So he's like, not only now about this house, but he's going to throw a trip in. Like, it's like he has more money. He came into more money from when we first started the relationship. So he has, so anyway.
But the key is that, well, the problem is your communication needs to be less about the marriage and more about your personal psychological well-being. Why? It really shouldn't be about the marriage. The marriage is going to end at the rate that it's going anyways. You need to secure your psychological well-being independent of the marriage.
I have tried to tell him that, but and then he starts like, how could you throw away, like, you're a bad person, this whole thing.
Okay, so this is where you need to be very clear as to your issues. That this isn't about the marriage, and you got to be able to communicate this. You can say, I'm not throwing that away. I need to work on my mental health. Just go into, how would you feel if I ended up committing suicide? How's that going to work out? Because that's where I'm going. I need to work on my mental health. This has nothing to do with you. I need to work on my mental health. And as I get emotionally and intellectually more stable, more sane, then we can rethink how we're doing this. Yeah, I can go to Yosemite, but I'd rather be sane.
Right, yeah.
So that you remember in our last conversation how I was like, this is really important that you do not blame him. This has nothing to do with him. You need to get him out of this process. And for you, because what he's doing is taking it personal because you're probably not, you're trying to get independence. That would be like him saying, I don't want to have sex with you. I can't have sex right now. How's that going to make you feel?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to go, well, what's wrong with me? So you've got to be able to say, there's nothing wrong with you. This has nothing to do with you. I have to get my shit together. Psychologically. Yeah. This is about your mental health. This is not about the marriage. So I know that
I don't think he cares.
So you're not communicating it very well then.
Okay.
And if you communicate it well and he still doesn't care, you might want to start your exit strategy.
Well, right. And he sent you you already talked to him about Wednesday or something. He sent a message to have a session with you.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Tracy Patterson.
Did that happen yesterday?
I think, yesterday.
I wouldn't even.
You emailed them about time on Wednesday or something.
Tracy. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Oh, that happened this morning.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's your husband?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Shit just got real. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put a note on that. I'm talking to your husband. What does he want?
So, he is probably going to tell you how much he loves me. And
okay, so I'm going to do a really thorough job telling him that your wife has got significant psychological problems. I'm going to make you seem like a freaking batshit crazy person, okay?
Yeah.
Because he needs to see that this isn't about him. Are you? Right. If you can get your shit together, let's just be honest for a second. I mean, I need you to be really honest with me right now.
Right.
If you could get your shit together, and when I say that in terms of like you feeling good about yourself, about your life. Are you devoted to him? Like, do you really feel that you could have a healthy relationship with him if he were to give you that space?
If he, so the first thing I believe that I will feel is so much relief over being free that I'm going gonna want to feel that for a while. Like
he just needs to give you space.
My entire life, I have come out of basically this is the basically fourth relationship that is basically in the same dynamic for me. So I do really want to feel like I am secured and that I am free.
Okay, hold on a second. That has nothing to do with him. So my question is, do you love him? Like, do you really care about him as a person?
I do care about him as a person.
Okay.
Yes. I don't want to play these games anymore.
Okay, that's different. That's a totally different conversation. So this is where you have to really think outside of this toxic environment that you absolutely played a part in and you're trying to remove yourself from. Do you really care about him as a person? Are you invested in him as a person? Let's just say you get divorced. Are you still going to wonder, how's he doing? What's going on? Like, are you invested in him independent of you? Or do you literally not give a shit?
Well, I don't know 100% what you mean by that, but...
well, that's because this might be the first time you've ever been thought, do I really care about this person? Because it's always been self-centered for you. That's how it works on both sides. It's always self-preservation, right? I need to get from him what I need to feel better about me. So it's about me, not him, and I love him. You're not conscious about that, right? Yeah, but now I'm asking the question, you may never have even questioned this. Do I actually care?
We actually got pregnant within 2 months of even knowing each other. Like,
that doesn't matter.
Got a chance to have a relationship.
Yeah, does not matter. That does not matter. You probably have never even thought. Just think about this question and really go into the truth. Go into the truth, because the truth is don't repress it. I had to do this with my current husband at the time when I left him, because I had to be willing to tell the truth. And if the truth was that I didn't love him, I didn't care about him, I didn't want to invest my life with this person, I had to be willing to tell myself that to face the divorce. I had to face it. I didn't want to repress those feelings out of fear of divorce, right? You can see how people would do that unconsciously because they are afraid of being alone. They're afraid. They have these underlying fears within themselves that they would rather repress those feelings than to actually, address what they're really afraid of, which is to be alone or whatever. So that's why I say it's really important you actually allow this to come up, because little answers will come to you. Okay, it's very simple. Do you care about him as a human being, as someone's son? Do you really care about him? Not about his needs and what you can do for him. Do you just care about who he is?
I do care about who he is, yes. But what I'm saying is that I don't want to feel entangled right now.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
So I don't know. I have to feel that space of I think I need to feel that space of freedom before
you can come back to that.
Answer those questions.
Okay, so that's actually not necessarily correct, because if you really cared about him, you would just have a care for him. Just kind of like, I do care. I'm not saying that you're going to stay married to him or not. I'm just saying, do you care about him as a person? Totally separate. Like I said, even if you get divorced, will you care about who he is and his well-being? Really, do you want him to do... Okay, that is love. Okay? That's what love feels like. It's completely unconditional, that you actually care about the well-being of him independent of yourself. You want him to be happy. You want him to thrive. You want him to find himself and to... he has this life. He is someone's son, right?
Yeah.
And you honor that independence in him and that individual separate from you. So even if you get divorced and he finds, you want him to find true love. You want him to find happiness. That is real love. Okay. So if you have that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You can. So if you have that, then you can honor in him what you are about to honor in yourself. And you have to be able to, so can you see this has nothing to do with him? You actually have the foundation of love for him. It's not sentiment. It's not it's not glamorized, fucked up romance. It isn't limerence or, again, self-centered attachment issues. You could actually separate from him and still respect him as a person and really care about who he is and his well-being. Okay, that's a fabulous foundation. That's there. Okay, because some people, it isn't. They would never choose to be with this person. They don't really like the person. They don't enjoy their time with that person. They could never see that person for the rest of their lives, and they would be so happy.
Yeah, no, I don't feel that way.
Good.
Actually, it was really funny because this morning we had like this moment that was so small, but it was so significant because we've never really sat down and like really played together, and he happened to buy checkers. And I basically like beat him and kind of like cornered him. It was just so much fun to kind of like play out that dynamic of getting each other, and we just kind of had fun with it. But
here's my point, because I do have a point in this conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm trying to teach you here so you can see this clearly. Okay. Because this is what I'm going to try to actually communicate to him, so he can see this clearly, because he's right now super concerned about you leaving him because you don't need him anymore. So he's having his own personal issues with this. And if you can have this understanding around caring about his well-being separate from yours, what that tells me is that then there's some security here that you can rely on. Just rely on the fact that if you actually care about each other from the heart, not from the codependency, not from the mind, not from the ego, not from the survival place, that if this doesn't work out, it's going to be because it's best for your individual well-beings. That you will always remain friends. You will always love each other as humans and respect each other, so you can relax around, is it going to work out or isn't it? Because ultimately, if you really care about him, you're devoted to him. That's what true love is. It's like unconditional devotion, right? I feel that way about my husband. If something were to happen, he were to find someone else, I want him to be with that person. It's not about me. I can rely on myself. I can open myself up to the world. I will just have to adapt how I relate to him. I still will never unrelate to my husband. I care about him as a person. I will till the day he passes away.
Right.
And I know he feels that way about me too. So when it comes down to our relationship, yeah, I get annoyed at little things. He drives me crazy in some areas, but the reality of it is those things are his programming, right? And I have my own programming that he's annoyed by.
Right.
It works. So that's ultimately the goal for you, is that you get this opportunity to become whole independent of him. You are devoted. There's a sense, the fact that you're like, I do care about him. I actually do want him to be happy in his life and to find what brings him joy. It doesn't have to be you, though. It's not your job, right? You have to bring yourself joy right now. He can't be a part of that. And you can feel that. I have to do this for me. I have to redevelop. And it's not going to be like you're 18 years old and it's going to be 12 years ahead of you to do it. You're freaking mature enough that it's going to be really rapid.
Right.
You get a sense of yourself. You find a job. You both could go on dates. You can still go on a date. You know what I mean?
Right.
It can happen right now. So I know you're right in the moment. You're like, I have to focus in on what I need to do to get that liberation, to feel free. The key here is that he gives you the space.
Right.
That and that he's not opinionated about it.
Right. He has to be willing to do that, or I'm never going to feel like I'm truly in a space of choosing freely. I'm always going to feel like there's strings attached.
Totally. That's why he needs to keep his opinion to himself. But at the same time, you got to be able to honor what you're doing no matter what his opinion is. Even if he has one. Even if your parents have one. Even if your kids have one. I so understand what you're saying right now.
Right.
I so have been here before. It's like starting at zero. It's like you're born again right now. You got to figure your inner sense of truth. You need to be truthful with yourself. And how do you do that when there's all this manipulation coming around from everybody else that you're a slave to? Some of that, there's no choice. You have children, and those children you're committed to, and there's boundaries in certain areas, right?
Right.
So with him, because it has been so codependent, I think the problem, what he has to understand is what I just explained to you. He needs to know you love him. You love him.
And basically,
That's different. He may not know what that means.
Love to him, which is how, and it's not my responsibility. Also, how I'm not doing this as this one-up maneuver so that he can then do another one-up. This isn't that type of thing.
No,
so he needs to see that this is real. So.
Well, and so the problem too with someone who's been in codependency for himself. How long has he been in codependency? There is no real essence of what love is. There's been never an experience of being unconditional. You've always been, it went from being religious conditional love from your parents to, sexual love from this one guy to, now you're a homemaker and needy with this person.
Right.
And he may not, and you may clearly up to this point have had a very hard time even explaining that, what this is, how it feels, right?
Right.
So I guess when I talk to him on Wednesday, I'm going to do the best job I can helping him know that you are devoted to him, but not at the risk of yourself anymore. So the best thing he can do is, if I can help him see what is he in the relationship for, does he actually love you? Does he care about your well-being? Then he would give you some space. I don't think he knows the alternative. Or he does, and he's freaking out about it. He thinks you're going to leave him. Does he have his own personal abandonment issues from childhood?
Oh, yeah. His
so
dad
he's projecting that
died
onto
when
you.
he was 3.
Well, that's different than abandonment.
He had a tumultuous relationship with his stepfather, and his mother was abused, I believe. So I would definitely say yes. And
so I could.
So he was also raised in a little bit more of and he's grew up on a farm. He's got a pretty old school mentality.
Okay, so programming. Let's just say programming.
Super old school programming, right? Yeah. So.
Right. Okay, well, he might not like me.
No, he's probably he may try to put down if you go too much, he'll want to say you're the crazy one.
That's fine.
But I know
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
But I hope that it can, he can see. I know he's scared that if I feel an ounce of freedom, I'm gonna run. But actually, I think
that's his fear.
Feel a sense of relief, and that then I can come from I have to secure that of myself, because that's something that on a personal level, from my own personal journey, I didn't know what was stopping me from securing that, and now it's actually, I want it.
Yeah.
That's what I want. So.
It feels good, doesn't it? And it's not saying I don't want responsibility. It's saying I am honoring for the first time in my life the truth of me. What color do you like? What's your favorite music in the moment? How do you like to be and dress? How do you express yourself when it doesn't have to do with making sure, when you're not accommodating to some program or someone's opinion? Have your own sense of self and develop that. And if he really loves you, he's going to want that. He's going to want that for you. And he may just not know or have an awareness of what it's like to be with someone who actually has their own sense of well-being that isn't required. It's not needy. It isn't poor me, and he's going to have to adjust if he wants the marriage to work. But what that's going to require of him is for him to not rely on you to babysit his needs, right? So there's some independence this is going to require him. And if he has beliefs, deeply held beliefs, that it's a woman's job to take care of that shit, his marriage is going to end. Because you're not going to do it. It conflicts with yourself. It's like, And
he has just, like, he's definitely praised the stay-at-home woman, and sort of, like, a lot of women that he works with, he's like, the reason she's so, bitchy is because she never had kids. She's, like, he has there's some things that I've picked up on, big things through the year with, like, feeling like it's superior for women to be home, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so, and you know what?
He might be willing to let that go. I'm not saying that at all, but.
Well, but at the risk of her sanity, so he might have that belief in a vacuum as a fantasy, and there may be some truth to what our nature is, especially with children. But is it really a belief that should be held so strictly, even if it's affecting your well-being, right? How strict does it really need to be? Because there is some part of you that wants to be home with your kids. You want to do it. There is a part of you that's like, without him, I would do the same thing. Whether you might be adjusting that.
Just getting like a part-time job so I can still be home with the kids is, of course, desirable.
Well, does that feel right to you, whether he likes it or not? Does that sound right to you, whether he likes it or not?
Wait, say that one more time.
Does that feel right to you? The idea that I kind of want a part-time job and I can be home. Does that feel like something that is true for you, whether he likes it or not? Whether someone has an opinion about it or not, what does that feel for you?
Right.
So that's truthful for you, right? You're like, no, that's a decision that feels good for me. I would do that for me, not for him. That would be my choice for me.
Right.
So that's what it feels like.
Establish that sense of that autonomy, so that I don't feel like I'm being manipulated. So there's still.
Yeah, well, and that's partly you. Because if you were just to say, no, that's what I feel like we should do, and I'm going to do it. If you came across to him really confident in that choice, how would he respond? He might be like, all right, well, if that's what you think, okay. So it might be all in your head based on your fears of rejection and abandonment, right? Something to think about. So, but you have to be willing in your state of mind, and this is what I found. I have to be willing to voice what's right for me, because I'm the only one that's aware of that. I'm the only one that's feeling balance from within myself. Where is that balance? And so if I don't want to do that, I'm the only one that can say, I don't want to do that. Yeah, if I don't say that, I'm not giving them a chance to go, okay, you don't have to do that. What would you like to do? You've never given them a chance to give you freedom. You've always just gone, okay, I'll do that. Stuffing it down. I don't want to do it. Afraid that if they, so your fear might be running how you're interpreting him. And your father, I did the same thing. I projected a lot of shit onto Mark in the beginning. Like he was the one. It was actually not him. It was just my child rearing and the religious indoctrination. That was creating that fear of, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. He thinks I'm doing something wrong. Oh my God, I'm wrong.
Right. Well, he would have to, on his own volition, at least be willing to let me go if that was what I needed to feel free. Like, he would actually have to come to that for me to then be able to say, okay, I feel free. Like, because you...
Well, yeah, you got to give him the chance to say... Yeah, you got to give him the chance to say, like, it's something stupid, like, I really want to work part-time and I'll be home after school and they can go to school and that's what's right for me and I really feel good about it. Oh, and he'd probably go, okay, well, if it's right for you, you should do that. If he says to you, well, no, and he's overriding what you're saying is best for you, now we have boundary issues. Now we have someone who thinks you're the slave. But I have a feeling if you start really being vocal about your own needs because you're willfully doing it, he's going to accommodate to you. You have to give him a chance too, right? So some of your fear that he's going to be controlling you comes from your own fear of voicing your opinion. So you have to develop a voice. Right. And in order to do that, you're going to have to be willing to be criticized, whether it happens or not. You have to be willing to say, here's what's right for me. And if you're criticized, you got to be willing to do it anyways. So you can remove yourself from that vulnerability, but no, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're going to have to be willing to say, this is what's right for me. And no, I'm not doing that. And disappoint someone else. You're going to have to do that now or later. Right? I knew for example, I knew for me when I was in this same exact spot coming out of that Stockholm syndrome, I knew I couldn't go home to my parents because I wasn't willing to hurt their feelings. I wasn't willing to be, it just wasn't my survival mechanism to be abrupt and abrasive with them ever. I was always submissive. So I knew immediately I couldn't go home and thrive, right?
Right, and I recognize that that's a personal problem I have, and
right.
that's going to take me time to get over.
Yeah.
So as nice as it sounds that I'll just like jump right into it.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Don't know if that's actually
I'm not saying that's what you should do, but at some point, what I'm trying to tell you is, if for this relationship to work, I had to do this with my husband, and I had to do it intensely and immediately because I was living with him. I was in a different state with him. I was going to college with him. I moved across the country, shoving down my fears and actual wants for that marriage, right? And so I had to say, I'm leaving. I'm going back to Boise. I had to become my own driver, right?
Right.
And that aspect for you, and that's why I said in our previous session, I'm going to say it again, this is really important. You have clarity and that you can communicate this. And I'm happy to be a voice for you and to help you get that clarity. Because from what I'm hearing and sensing, it's getting very clear to you what needs to happen. You need this independence. You need to not have anybody's opinion right now around what's going to be right and wrong for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know I will cave. I am not right now strong enough to not cave. I know that.
Yeah. So one thing you might see too is this may not be your husband. It may be your father. You're trying to it's a child's reaction to your father.
Right.
That you're projecting onto your husband. And clearly it's been projected long enough that he has played the game with you. He is now your father.
Right.
And I'm sure he does not want that. That has come at a high cost for him too. He's had a lot of freaking baggage with you.
Well, I would argue that he's happy with that, but
I don't know if
it's kind of a weird game, so we shouldn't do that. So, but I also, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Do you hear my point? He's got baggage with you. I know he does. He has to. He's human.
Right.
He has to resent. There's got to be some resentments in there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
See what I mean? I'm like, he has his part of this codependency too, where he feels overworked. He feels you're demanding. He feels there's something going on in there for him too, to where he's going to get relief if he is going to benefit.
Right.
By you recovering from your daddy issues, right?
Right. Yeah, and I want that for him.
Right. I know.
Right.
That means that he can be himself. He can.
Shit sucks.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, let's just let him. So if you do this, he is going to have to take responsibility. He is going to have to deal with his own personal insecurities, because if he keeps on gripping onto you, it's going the complete opposite direction of what you're trying to do for your own survival, right?
Right.
He is, yeah. And so if he really cares about you, and that's really what needs to happen, it's not cares about the marriage. I'm sorry. It's not about the marriage at this point, because it's going to end, right?
Right. Exactly.
If he cares about you,
right,
he will want this for you. He will want this for you. The hard thing is he's probably not as aware.
To see it because because he's not clear, because he's not going counseling. Like
no, I was just going to say the same thing. The problem, too, is he is not aware of where you're at. Based on my experience, I can see it, right? I'm not saying we're exact or whatever, because we're so unique, but I'm witnessing in you, and I'm seeing in you what I have to go through. And I'm like, oh, and you're not the only person that we start unraveling this shit, and there's divorce underneath it, and there's drama and trauma and all this shit that you thought was an eating disorder. Right?
Right.
It's just like, that's just your coping mechanism. Okay?
Right.
And not everybody has this. Not everybody, but can you see why this would be so hard to face? It's like, this isn't about food. This isn't about gluten. This isn't about sugar. This isn't about your weight. This isn't about your thinness. This is about your own soul and your own autonomy. You want to breathe. Oh, take a breath into your lungs.
Yeah, I know somewhere along the line, part of my fear is that I am incapable. So I have to actually prove to myself that I'm capable.
Yeah.
Like that's something for me to conquer in my own soul journey.
Yeah. And you cannot afford to get someone else's opinion.
Before I will be healthy enough.
I agree.
In a relationship.
I totally get that. I've been there.
Right.
And it's scary, but at the same time, it's like, but I have to do it at some point or another. So I either do it now or I live in misery continuously. So it's either misery and feeling like you are voiceless and held hostage, or you take the risk of a choice.
Right.
And you could be wrong.
It feels like a baby who decides he wants to learn how to walk, and it's like...
That's why I asked, what's your favorite color?
I really want to try to walk. Like, walking sounds like fun.
Yeah. Or breathing, getting off the ventilator. So do my lungs work? Let's find out.
Right, I know.
Oh, just breathing. Like, can I breathe on my own? Yeah, it's like being a baby. It is, and that's what it feels like.
Right. And I don't think he understands that that's what's going on for me.
No, and because in his mind...
And I'm truly thankful that we found you, because I would like for him to... I don't want him to suffer, because he doesn't understand where I am, and then have these codependency issues if he left them.
No, he's scared out of his mind. Yeah, he's scared.
He's scared right now.
Yeah, and he has no reason to. And that's... So if you had said to me, I can't stand him, I don't want to be with him, then I would be like, okay, he should be scared. This is dumb. And there's no reconciling. But you didn't feel that way. So I'm like, okay, there's hope here. You love him. You do.
Yeah.
You do. It's different, isn't it?
I just love me too.
Well, that's how you can tell. So once you start to really honor what's within you, your love for him is going to magnify. Not in a codependent. It's going to be like, I want him to become this. I want him to feel this about himself. I want him to respect and honor he's such important within. There's something important that he has that he needs to witness. It's not about me. It's not about our kids. He's an important person. He's someone's son who wants him to thrive, and he should thrive. But it's not your job. That's not okay. That means essentially you don't think he's good enough either. So who's going to tell him he's good enough? He's going to have to do it. And you're doing it right now for yourself. And it is magical. It is magical what you're going through right now. Wouldn't you agree? It feels so like, don't you feel like you can breathe for 2 seconds? Because you have a clear understanding of what your needs are at this point.
Right.
So I will do what I can. I don't know where he's at, but the best thing I can do for him is to, first of all, let him know that you are devoted to him. You don't want to get divorced. You actually like him. You just can't afford to project your daddy issues onto him anymore. Because it's unfair to him. Even if he has participated, he participated because you believed you couldn't handle it, and therefore he came in and loved you with a codependent, like, I'm caring for her type of way, So he's going to have to break out of that and find a new way to relate to you, that he's got to not make decisions for you and to do it for your own good. He's got to be able to say, I don't know. What do you want? And then you sit there and look at him and go, oh my God, I don't know. What does he want? Should I do that? Oh shit.
Right.
And I have to say, I still do that with my husband.
Yeah.
I constantly adapt as if he is rigid. My husband is not rigid.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cause me discontent anymore. I don't feel, because I'm here nor there. I'm here nor there. So it always puts him in a position to make choices. He eats it. Robin, why don't you plan this trip? I don't know. I'll do what you want to do.
Yeah, and I could almost see us getting to that place, but I do see where I feel like debilitated right now in my own sense, and that's something that I'm going to have to work out. So I'm going to actually have to give myself that chance to work through that, and that way I can actually secure that within myself. That sense of,
all he needs to do is take a seat. That's it.
Yeah, if he could just breathe for a little bit and
let
relax and just
the best thing
have some time, which he does not want to do.
Well, because he's scared. So the best thing you can do is let him know how important he is, how much you do love him. And you can even say it, you know what, honey, I have to do this for me. I'm not doing this because I don't like you. I'm not doing it because you've done something wrong. See, he, in his mind, is positioning himself to that you're angry at him and he did this to you. And, he thinks you're a victim. And because that's how this whole dynamic works, right? So that's why he's on his hands and knees. That's why he's doing everything possible. That's why he paid $200 to talk to me. Which I'm sure it hurt him to pay that. Right? I'm like, oh my God. He was probably like, seriously. That's why I'm like, oh shit. Now, so the best thing you can do for him, the best thing I can probably do for him is to, first of all, he needs to start studying codependency. He needs to read about it. He needs to understand it so he can witness it in himself and go, oh shit. Wow. It's toxic,
He's extremely fearful of me cheating on him, which I have never. His former wife cheated on him really bad.
Okay. Yeah, and he's projecting that onto you. That's what he's doing. It's just like you playing.
Projecting the crap onto me of this fear he has. So, because he's always I used to go do this meditation class when I was in the thick of things, and I'd come back and he'd be like, who is he? I know you've been out. Or he always, that's a thing for him. He's always kind of been whatever. That's ridiculous. And I see that he's projecting onto me, but I will say that's for him is going to be, leaving me alone. He's going to feel like somebody's going to swoop in.
Yeah.
And he's very scared of that.
Yep, and he's going to have to face his fears so that he can allow you to, if he loves you, again, this goes back to that, do you care about her? Even if you were to get divorced, if something were to happen, do you really care about her? And if his answer is yes, we got something to work with. If his answer is no.
Right. And that maybe he hasn't given himself, he hasn't prioritized in a way that's going to help. So.
Well, this may take some guided, that would be a guided question, just like I did it for you. That was a guided question. You didn't think on your own to go, do I really care about him? What is it that I care about him? If we were to get divorced, would I still care about him? If what are your, separate from your relationship, take yourself out of it, him as an individual person, do you actually care about him? And your answer was yes.
Right.
These are things to think about, because if your answer is no, there's something you might want to address. Why are you with this person? What are all the strings going on here? Can you see why you're drinking? Maybe that's why you're smoking cigarettes 2 packs a day. Maybe because you're trying to just cope with an environment you're not okay with. And it has nothing to do with them. Maybe they're being themselves and you just don't. Oil and water. I just don't get that sense. I'm not getting that sense from you. When I talk to him, I'll get a better understanding. So my question being, since he's going to be contacting me and we're going to talk on Wednesday.
Right.
Are you okay with my honesty?
Yeah, that's fine. So,
because I'm not hearing anything. Really, it's just if I can relay to him really what's going on here, because in his mind, he's got too much fear that he probably can't hear straight.
Right.
He's so afraid you're going to find someone else and he's feeling inadequate. And again, it's all about him. So if I can get him to see, no, you're good. She loves you. She's devoted to you, but she has to figure herself out to then come back to you whole. Because right now, she's probably more work than you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because he's the one, he's the rescuer in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're the victim. You're the damsel in distress, and he's got to rescue you at some point. Again, the resentment in that. He's going to have to address what he's afraid of, which is why it got so cattywampus. Right?
Right, yes. And I think that if he could get in touch with that frustration and that could see that being a big connection for him to recognize that in himself, that he's having to work too hard.
Yeah, he shouldn't have to work this hard. And he should be, the difference is that he doesn't, when I talk to you about that type of love for someone, he doesn't even have a sense of what that is. Just like as we were talking, you were like, I never felt that. Did you ever have a sense of what that is? Probably not.
Right.
And just us talking about it, it's like the first time you actually went, oh, I do love him. That's love. That's real. Everything else that you've experienced with him, can you see that is not love? That's not love. That's codependency. Yeah. That's self-centered. It's all about serving yourself, what your needs are. That's not love.
Right.
It could be some sentimental romanticism of something. That's not love either.
Right.
Devoted to his well-being, whether you're with him or not, that's love. You care about him independent of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and one of the things that he's seen me do is to really try to push him away. And I think that was just, I didn't know how to feel the space that I was trying to get. So I wasn't pushing because I wanted him, because I don't love him. I just have been trying to get this space because I recognized that there was something I needed to do, but I wasn't able to really verbalize that. I didn't know what that was. So he's like, well, she's been pushing me away, so it probably means she doesn't love me. No, actually, that was me just working out my personal problems.
Yeah, that you've attached to him. So you kind of have to cut those, and that's how he's related to you. Those are the ways he's related to you. And so by getting rid of those, he feels that you are going to leave. He really probably thinks that he might be even paranoid, thinking you got some plan, some other person.
He does.
Yeah.
He's like, you probably, you have somebody else. How do you, but he actually knows I don't, because he's with me he just knows that's not true. But then his mind, he thinks that he's tricking him to think probably that that could be a scenario. And that's not what I'm about. It's not.
So to finish this session, I really am curious how you're feeling. How do you feel?
Well, when you got me to that place of the liberation, that was there's a deep feeling that I want to secure in myself to feel autonomous right now. And I know that that's such an infantile feeling, but that is what's important to me right now. So I really like that, and I just want to stop with this whole facade of being incapable.
Yeah, and you need to
recognize that was just it's, you know.
Yeah, no, you're right. This independence gives you, it's not just autonomy, but it gives you freedom to be creative with your life and to actually voice what's going on and to honor that there is something in there that has a voice that
and it
you
gives me that voice, right?
correct. Yeah, you have to be able to learn how to vocalize it. If anything, that's all I've done for you is become a voice. I'm just like, oh, here's your voice, here it is, and you're going, oh my God, now I need to do it on my own. And that's really what we should be focusing on. So awesome. Oh my God, you must feel so good right now.
I do.
Oh my God, like a path just opened and you're like, that's the fucking path. I need to go.
For me, I don't even know. Like, this is like my life is like culminated into this is like a week of being able to like be like, okay, I'm gonna take a step. I'm gonna try to walk. Like, whoa.
This is so great. I love it. I love it so much. This is awesome. Good for you. Good for you. Well, I'll be excited to talk to your husband on Wednesday. Let him know that I'm, because he didn't write anything in it. It was just basically filled in the shit, left the questions empty. So I was like, I thought it was a woman.
Right.
Yeah. So now I know. And I can help, I'll try to help him with his shit, but my goal is to relay to him what I'm sensing from you, which is you love him. You really do. You just need to love yourself in the moment so that your life with him will be easier, because it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be as hard as you guys have made it.
Right.
You're working way too hard for two people who probably really actually love each other. You're playing a horrible game that is unnecessary.
Right.
And when it's over, I have a feeling that you guys are going to be like a totally different, it's going to be like you're dating again.
Right.
Very different.
Yeah.
You'll be whole. You'll be a whole person.
That will be amazing.
Well, you've already started. So this decision you're making for yourself, holy shit, you should feel whole. It might be a small little pebble hole, but it's a whole pebble. And that's how I felt. I was like, I'm 4 years old inside, but at least I'm aware of what that is, and that's where I'm going to grow from here. And it was like, it became a huge space of infinite potential in a very short period of time. Because once you start that vocalizing and you start honoring that, you'll never stop.
Right.
You'll never stop.
And it's hard for me to even know 100% which decisions. Like, I don't know if I do feel like I want to get my own place, but then I also don't know if maybe we could do this still being together. But then I also, I still am, getting super secure in my footing.
Yeah. Well, you just do something. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You do something like month to month. Just month to month. Let me just get this sense of what it's going on. And then at that point, and let him know what's going on too, so that he can give you that space. And then everything is changeable. Everything. You rent a space, you go month to month, go 6 months, do what's necessary now. It's so much, if in terms of expense, in terms of cost, in terms of the all or nothing shit will end up in divorce. So you just need to adapt to what it is and know that this is the best thing for you. It's the best thing for him. And ultimately, it'll be the best thing for your marriage and your children and their well-being, because they're going to see something functional. They're actually going to see a dynamic that is loving instead of needy. There's a difference. Neediness is not love.
Right. Yeah. You're right. No, the whole, I need you. I need us to stay together. I think that's something that right now he's going to be saying. And he has vocalized to me that he needs it.
Yeah, and he's telling the truth because that's what he feels. He's feeling that dependency, and so...
Right, so...
He's going to have to really open himself up to himself.
Right.
And if I can help him with that, I will. So,
yes. Well, this is very cool. And, I don't know how many decisions I need to be making, but I have a couple weeks.
You do. So well, start with your heart. Start opening yourself up to, I know I want to get a job. Okay, cool. What sounds good? Maybe you work volunteer work. Or start with something. It doesn't have to be the don't go grandiose. Don't do that again. Start with what would give me a sense of like excitement, possibility, taking a night school class, being a teacher. If you want to be a teacher, you just start going into what you really need to do, whether you're going to stay with your husband or not. This is what I'm going to do, whether I'm with him or not. I love it.
Yeah.
So, all right, my dear.
Yeah.
Let's follow up.